Hello everyone, welcome to another Data Archive and full spoilers for Ciconia Phase 1. Now that I've started speaking, I only now am remembering that I completely forgot that I'm supposed to open the episodes in different languages. That's the thing I said like 2 or 3 episodes ago. So because I did not prepare a language, I guess I'm gonna do Portuguese this time. Olá, pessoas com bom gosto. O meu nome é Des, and I'm here with...
I was a wimp before the Gauntlet program. Now I'm a jerk and everybody loves me. So enlist now, wimp. It's Horsefry.
Nice. I don't have anything cool to say. I guess I would like to just be blown to bits before I have to, do more war crimes. This is your friendly neighborhood mushroom.
Yep, and we're here to fucking record Data Archive 8, the legendary subcategory in this podcast that appears every now and again.
Hell yeah.
Horsefry, welcome to the Data Archive. You want to tell us about your Gauntlet design?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think I introduced it pretty well. I was a wimp, now I'm a jerk. Yeah, so yeah, shout outs to Fru, made like exactly what I wanted. It looks great.
Yeah, Fru's been making basically all the sprites.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Fru killed it. I was so impressed. Like, the amount of work Fru has, showed up and did already is so great. Yeah,
I hope Fru can be on episodes as soon as possible, because I want people to know them, because Fru's been
incredibly nice, like lovely person.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that arm from?
It's SpongeBob.
I see. I get it.
It's the Anchor Arms episode, and it's held on with duct tape in the traditional engineering style, and has some nice caution tape aesthetic to go with it.
It's good. It looks it looks amazing.
It does look really good. It's really different from all the other gauntlets.
I honestly speaking, we have such a great array of gauntlets, like from Yesid's like Daytona.
Yesid's Daytona car.
Car. Just iconic. That doesn't get funnier than that. I just remember being like, this is what a Daytona car racing looks like, and I was like, are you not racing with the Daytona? And you're like, no, the Daytona's racing you, man. It's just very good.
This time I'm gonna be reading the summary again. You already know I don't know how to flow when I read, so you already know this is gonna sound not as fluid as Lorenzo's amazing plot summaries, but I'll do my best, and feel free to interrupt whenever you have anything to say. This time we're covering 2 chapters, and the first one opens up with a quote from Tojiro saying, "The beginning of the end, you're behind the times. It's the opposite. Here's how it should go. Once it's begun, it has already ended. It already has ended, I mean." So basically he's just describing a prophecy, which is fitting because last chapter was proof of program, which included the whole prophecy speech from Wumiao.
I just love the idea that Mitake Tojiro gets to be in the same level as JFK to be as quoted as amongst the other things.
Yeah.
It's really funny to me.
I will say, normally you're supposed to quote someone after they've said it, but they do it the opposite this time. They quote him now, but at the end of the episode, he also says it.
True, I do remember that.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the chapter, sorry, not the episode.
So, AOU Japan is being praised by people all around the globe for taking action against the COU Japan's mining in the Glass Sea, while people in the COU push for revenge. The seeds of war are sprouting, and that's what the Workcat and Bible Squad are discussing in the public path. The First World War began a month after the big event that set the war in motion, and that was in an age without the internet. So the Gauntlet Knights are worried about what may happen very soon, now that we do have the internet, and information gets transmitted much more quickly than it did back in World War I. And because this is a visual novel, of course they have to make as many chess analogies as possible, and Miao wishes the pieces they are could one day ascend to players and stop all these conflicts.
Yeah, and Yui Kishi stares straight at you through the screen and makes eye contact.
Surrounded by this feeling of helplessness and the vague thought that their efforts in the previous chapter have been trivial, Jaden proposes that since they are the apex of military strength, the Gauntlet Knights should just get together and make an ultimatum to the governments. The group dismisses it as something straight out of a manga, since Gauntlet Knights do still need a lot of resources, and continued resistance would fail. This sounded weird. The group dismisses it as something straight out of a manga, since Gauntlet Knights still need a lot of resources to work, and also continued resistance to the people providing the resources would fail. Okay, that sounds a little bit better.
English is a really fucked up language, so I understand.
Yeah, we were discussing that before you got here half an hour late.
I'm
Mushroom,
so sorry.
About how, like... It's fine. It's fine. I am not angry. but we were discussing, what was it called, Horsefly? The language?
Oh, Esperanto.
Esperanto. Mushroom, do you know what Esperanto is?
No, what is it?
It's a language that was being concocted by linguists all around the globe to be like the world language before American culture sprouted its seeds everywhere.
Interesting.
And it was supposed to be an easy language for people all around the globe to have like a somewhat equal level of difficulty learning it and to be an optimized language, kind of like Chinese is, from what you've told me.
No, Chinese is not an optimized language, man. Don't worry.
What do you mean it's not optimized? You can read a page in however long you said you could read
it. But like that means you have to like memorize like 600, like 6,000, like, or not like 6,000, 4,000 like individual like tiny little pictures. That is like, I mean, the information you're absorbing is very optimized, but like learning it is pretty difficult.
Okay, I guess you're right then. But yeah, we could on this call right now, we could be having a conversation in a very different language right now.
That's cool, but you know, Americans had to fuck it up. You know, how unfortunate.
Yeah, fucking Americans, man. Nah, I'm joking. I love you, Americans.
Nah, they suck.
I love Horse Gam. I love Yensid. Anonymous.
This is so funny.
Kirby. Okay, let's keep going. At night, Meow finds himself unable to sleep under all his stress. So he emails his father to go check under his bed for monsters, make him some milk, bring him some cookies, and Meow did at least manage to calm down just by sending Tojiro the email. But then he got mad when his father actually got so worried he immediately called him. Zoomers, am I right?
It's so embarrassing.
Fucking...
I hate when I send my parents an email and they immediately call me and I'm like, I sent you an email specifically because I didn't want to call you. Why did you do that?
I don't get it. Like, it's cool when you're like your parents worry about you. Fucking goddamn, man.
I gotta love the generational struggles in this whole chapter. Like the very opening where it's like all the people talking about how much they like the AOU Japan taking the fight to the enemy and shit. Like there's like a high schooler who's like, "Oh man, I love Japan. Huh? Where's Japan? Oh, let me quickly look it up on my cellcom." It's like it's big like Zoomers are constantly on their phones energy.
Yeah, this is actually a really interesting like online survey they did, which is that they made a bunch of stupid Americans draw maps of the world, and they were like, hey, could you draw like what do you think the shape of Japan looks like? And people just draw Japan really big, and then because you know they see so much like anime or like culturally absorb a lot of Japanese things, and then they're like, hey, draw China, and then they just draw China like smaller because they have no idea where China is, nor do they know how big it is. And I'm just like, and like, you know, meanwhile, like China's like literally the third largest country in the world. And it's funny to me, like, I just think about that. So like, that's basically how I feel when I'm reading the earlier chapters. So yeah, that's more my American slander.
That reminds me of this video that became viral in Portugal some years ago of people going around in America and asking Americans to point in the world map where Africa is, and they just fail miserably. And everyone on their school break was like, "Oh, have you seen the video yet? How do these fuckers not know where Africa is? That's so funny." And then I think it's because in the US they don't teach geography? Is that true?
I mean, no, it's true and not true at the same time. It's because American public school system is absolute fucking garbage. Like, you know, it's highly possible that you show up to like an Earth class and your teacher just shows you like, you know, Bill Nye the Science Guy for like 10 weeks in a row because, you know, they have zero interest in teaching you.
Damn.
I mean, I didn't do
that's-
geography in school either. Like, if I know where a country is, it's just because I know where it is, like, completely independent of school. So
Yeah. My family had a world map on our like dining room wall because my mom really likes maps. But like, I don't know, man. Like, it's like asking people, being like, "Is Africa a country?" And people just being like, "Yeah, it's solely a country," and you just like, you know, stare into the soul. It's yeah. And then I cringe when people don't know shit. It's so embarrassing. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Okay.
That was a tangent and a
That's cool.
half.
So that's fine. We're only covering 2 chapters. We can talk about shit. So, Tojiro comforts Meow by reminding him that the young are always the main characters of any era. And he also reminds him that once you're middle-aged, you can only move in the ways you have been assigned. But when you're young, you can be a game changer and even go beyond rules.
Yeah, and then he says game changer because you're on a game board because you're a piece. And then he stares straight into the camera again.
Fucking chess analogies aside, I think this is a really interesting thing to point out because it is true. When you're old, you basically can only do the things you have built up yourself to be able to do because you don't learn as easily. You also don't have as much time to invest in learning new things.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
yeah, I don't know. I think it's a bit of excuse making, really. I think Tojiro is like
Really?
Tojiro's straight up lying here. Like, he's like, I mean, I guess we'll see in the next chapter. Should wait till the next chapter. But like, you know, he's saying like, oh, don't worry about your old man. He doesn't do anything dangerous. I'm a lame duck now. And then, like, the next chapter, we'll see. But
I don't think he's lying. No, I want to have this discussion now, but because this is where this theme is brought up. I don't think he's lying about like. You're saying like he's lying because he's saying middle-aged men don't have as much freedom to move, and then he's doing all this crazy shit.
Yeah.
But then, right? That's your point. But like in the backstory, I'll summarize in a bit. You will learn that like he's able to do this now because he did the groundwork when he was young. So he's not lying. It's just what he says. He can only move in the ways he has prepared himself to be able to move.
yeah,
That's his point. I think he has a good point. I think it makes sense.
I guess. I mean, it's not going to help Meow though, because the world's going to end. You know.
Why do you wipe your ass if you're gonna shit it again?
Well, okay, this is actually a really interesting thing to say. This is a very doomer mentality, or what you had just said, but it's like this thing of being like, well, you know, like, I don't see the world having a future, so I guess we're basically fucked.
Tojiro knows the world is going to end. Like, he's trying to end it. Well, I don't know if he's trying to end it, but he's in cahoots, or he's talking with the people who are trying to end it. So, like, and like, I did want to also say, it's interesting how they talk about how, like, exactly what abilities Gauntlet Knights do and don't have. Like, how they eventually need to return to refuel and, you know, rearm. They don't have, like, infinite amounts of missiles and stuff. So they're not just gods. Mm-hmm. I like, when I get confused about what gauntlets can and can't do, I just like try to imagine them as like mech pilots.
Yes.
Yeah, that's. I was gonna say something kind of in tune with that, which is that it reminds me of an episode of fucking
Evangelion. Man whispers that into the mic because he's too ashamed.
Nobody can hear me, but it's because you have this very overpowered thing, which is a Gauntlet Knight, and an Eva is also very fucking overpowered. And the easiest way to like hinder the power of this very overpowered thing you have, so that it does not turn against you, is to restrict it resource-wise. So like it can't move forever without your support, basically.
Yeah,
it makes sense. It makes sense in canon. If it's like intentionally built this way, it makes sense in canon because it's just so it doesn't go out of your control.
Yeah, exactly. Keep all your murder children on a leash, because how are you gonna, control your murder children if they just run wild?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's by design because we don't know enough about gauntlets, but if it is, it makes sense.
yeah. Like, it's pretty much the problem they run into at the end, right? It's like, they're doing well, but, like, ultimately, as soon as real-world pressures come on, it's like, well, shit, do I want to be executed as a traitor, or, like, am I just gonna actually fight these people who are my friends? And they all just fight each other. Like, it's interesting how, like, the Gauntlet Knights are built up as this, like, amazing, awesome thing, and if you're kind of just, like, reading at surface level, like I was when I read this for the first time, you're like, oh yeah, like, Gauntlet Knights, why don't they just kill everybody and take over the world? But they can't do that, and like they're kind of not like there's also this discussion, I don't know if it's in this chapter or the next chapter, about like how being a Gauntlet Knight is like different from being a soldier in previous times. Like, oh, obviously soldiers can't like buck the trend, they have to follow orders, but Gauntlet Knights are so powerful, like, surely we can do way better. But like, I actually think in that discussion, the more relevant part is like the cellcom. The fact that like you can just communicate with anyone in the world like completely anonymously. That's the thing that really enables them to make what they're going to make, the chivalric order. I'm way jumping ahead now, but
no, but yeah, I totally understand, because the whole idea about like a war that is effective is that you paint your enemies as faceless beings. They are like that you don't see them, you don't know them, they mean nothing to you. So when you pick up your gun, you don't have, it's not like you're killing, a father of three and a loving son or something. Like, you are just killing a body. But like, it's so much more, I mean, like, how do I say, like, it's more malicious in the age of internet, when you can actually see like the true reality of like the horror that you are like imbuing on people. Like, for example, like in reality, in our IRL world of like, you get to see just like horrible like, drone strikes and like, shootings or whatever the fuck, because like, it's you can actually see these are real people, and then people report on these real people with names and shit, and you're like, so like, when you actively do wish these people harm, like, there's a more malicious, or like, there's an added like evil to that. I mean, like, it comes from the fact that like, in the end, like, despite of the fact that like Meow thinks that like, oh, we can definitely go against our superiors, like, there's a lot of control they have over them, and as everybody has read in the happiest Christmas possible, it doesn't work out that way. Like, despite of anything, like, these are just children, like, these are just children that has nukes strapped on them, and like, it just doesn't work out. Like, it doesn't matter how well-intentioned you are, like, a nuke is a nuke.
I just like to summarize, just to finish off my thought, is like, I reckon the Order of the Public Bath could still have existed without the Gauntlets, but it couldn't have existed without the cellcom. And I think, like, it's interesting that, like, everything that Ryukishi emphasizes, I feel like is actually, judging by the way he, like, he writes what happens, and, like, you can kind of see how everything that he's emphasized isn't as important as it actually seems. Like, that the Gauntlets aren't as important as it seems. Like the whole spirit of like screw the man like isn't as important as like some of the things that kind of behind the scenes.
Wait, no. What do you mean specifically? Like how we were saying the Chivalric order could only have existed because of the cellcom. So like, even though Gauntlets are the big thing that Ciconia is about, actually the deciding factor that like makes everything possible in the story is the cellcom, which is something we do have available, kinda.
Yeah, that's my reading.
Like the internet, but I don't know how to word it. But I think I get your point. It is then revealed that Tojiro used to be a reporter because he wanted to tell people the truth, free of bias. But he quickly started feeling like he was just a piece being controlled by the higher ups, just like Meow. Until he decided to put the connections he had gained to good use and make a secret society. In it, everyone would share information as a way to discern what the unbiased truth of all sorts of events actually was, with the ultimate goal of making people never forget the value of peace. Ryukishi then goes on a 10-minute rant about how people don't check the ingredients of the information they consume like they do the food they eat, which sounded very intelligent at the start, but then he just kept mentioning it over and over again like he was crying about it. like a fucking Reddit post or something. I actually don't understand what Ryukishi was going on about, because like he mentions it, he mentions this first, and I'm like, huh. Yeah, that's true, Ryukishi. Then he mentions it again, and I'm like, yeah, I get the point. He mentions it again, and I'm like, bro, I get it. Then he mentions it again, and I'm like, what the fuck?
I think Sayome and I talked about this before, but I see Ciconia as Ryukishi because he doesn't have a like politic like Twitter, so he doesn't get to complain on Twitter about like how everybody's stupid and they have fake news and like, you know, that like people are just really bad at like absorbing information, or like they're just too warmongering. So instead he like wrote this like, you know, 40-hour visual novel, like first part of a visual novel, to get to write all his like Twitter rants in here. And like these just beat like Twitter rants. Like, you know what I mean? Like people being like, oh, like how could you possibly be this stupid to like believe this, and like all you people with this all these conspiracy theories and like, you know, blah blah blah. It's very funny to me.
I was just gonna say, you have mentioned that previously, but I had never felt that way until this specific scene.
Yeah, like
this scene really felt like he was crying about it.
Especially like when he started talking about a random middle-aged salaryman drinking buddies, and then they talk about like, and then he just keeps going and going, and then you're just like, Ryukishi, what are you talking about? Are you vague posting right now? Like, what is this?
I highly encourage everyone listening to go reread this chapter. It's called
The Value and True Weight of Peace.
It's called The Value and True Weight of Peace. It's the first one. There are two chapters. It's the first one. Go read this scene again and tell me your thoughts, because goddamn, it really is that exaggerated, like we're making it sound like here. It really is that exaggerated.
Okay, so what were you gonna say?
You were gonna say horse fry?
Oh, have we passed the part where I'll talk about it now. He talks about the chivalric order, and like it just like,
oh, we'll get there in a little bit.
Okay, well, I'll jump the gun because I'm talking about it now. So
okay.
I was just going to say how fucked up it is that he straight up just name drops the Order of the Three Kings as something that Meow is aware of. Like, it's possibly not like the actual Three Kings that we see in the rest of the visual novel, but he just goes like, oh yeah, I've heard of those. They're like the Knights Templar or the Freemasons or the Three Kings.
And you're just like,
I read it as something that has existed for a long time.
Yeah,
and people just assume it still exists because it's something that has existed for a long time.
Yeah,
I don't think when he mentions the Order of the Three Kings, Meow interprets it, or even if Tojiro was mentioning the Order of the Three Kings we know about, it's probably just something that existed like in the Middle Ages or not. I actually just read it as that, as something that existed in the Middle Ages, and it's just what the fuck do you call it when it's something everybody knows? Just
common knowledge, I guess.
It's not universal knowledge. It's common sense. No, you get what I mean. It's just like a piece of knowledge people know.
It's a meme, sure.
It's like knowing, oh yes, Christopher Columbus and America. I just took it at kind of like that kind of piece of trivia.
I also took it like if someone just mentioned the Illuminati and you're like, I know what that is, and then it turns out that there's an actual evil organization that just happened to call themselves the Illuminati. They probably call themselves the Illuminati.
The Illuminati is real
because of the fact that it like already was like a thing that people talk about. But like, yeah, I was just say that, and also Tojiro says like all in the name of guiding humanity down the right path, and Meow's like, oh, I recognize that. That's the Illuminati's catchphrase, right? So like he says Order of the Three Kings. So it's something that like people know about. I'd forgotten that before I like reread, so I was like, oh damn, I need to talk about this.
That's so funny. This Illuminati catchphrase.
Yeah, well, that's what like this literal thing. I've got the screenshot. He says, "Oh, I know that one. It's from 3-person, right? Those were the secret code words of the Order of the Three Kings."
Yeah, exactly. He talks about it in the past tense, so I just assumed it was something like long in the past, in the time where actual kings still lived. Either way, that's how Meow gets the idea to form his own Chivalric order from his pseudo Chivalric order he had already established, the public bath, fucking chat room. Realizing he basically followed in his father's footsteps makes him all fuzzy and weird, but Tojiro is loving every minute of it. In H3W, Chivalric orders aren't this grandiose thing, but rather glorified Discord servers, and anybody can form a Chivalric order with its own set of rules that you can use as an excuse for basically anything, like not disclosing how much you've spent on a night out, because it's part of your code to not disclose those kinds of things to your wife who's angry at you for spending your life savings on.
Okay, I just have to say the conceptual idea of calling the public bath as a glorified Discord server has just gave me kind of psychic damage I cannot explain. The idea that they have to that there's Discord mods being like, yes, we're going to save the world. By engaging in 8 hours of leftist conversation. It's just a fun
meow-etting everyone. Meow-ets everyone in the important messages chat. Hello everyone, let's take over the world.
Exactly.
We make fun, but there's I guarantee you there's somewhere there's a Discord server with Jeff Bezos and all the world's hand-picked billionaires trying to figure out how to destabilize the world even further.
No, they don't have a Discord server for that. They go to a fun island and then they all, and that's where they talk about it.
Speaking of Jeff Bezos, though, the other day wasn't there a thing on Twitter about how he was donating his whole fortune or something?
Yeah.
And then people just realized, no, he's lying. He's giving his whole fortune to his own company. He's just exploiting the system. Stop saying he's donating his whole fortune. It's not true.
He also laid off shitloads of people. So absolute, just a gem of a man.
Wasn't that Elon Musk?
Oh shit!
Oh yeah, Twitter was dying the other day.
I mean, Twitter is still dying.
Happened.
Lots of people I know have left Twitter. How unfortunate, despite of the fact that I hate Twitter, I kind of like Twitter, and I want to get more followers, Smiles. That's just how it is. But yeah.
Okay, so in the middle of this conversation, they mentioned the Cuban Missile Crisis, which, in case you don't know, like I didn't, it's a real thing that actually happened, and that's just crazy that we've been so close to a nuclear war already.
Yeah, it's horrifying. It actually happened again. There was a case where
what?
Yeah. I can't remember if it was an American or a Russian, but they had a radar system set up to to pick up if there was a launch. And there was a malfunction, and it straight up was there's a missile headed straight for. I can't remember if it's Russia or.
Is
America.
it Hawaii? It's the one. It's the one. Isn't that one that where everybody got a text message that just says basically a missile is coming towards Hawaii? I'm gonna search that up right now, but I'm fairly sure that's what happened.
I was just saying it might be different because the way I remember it is basically the guy who was in charge of his job was to immediately. Have a retaliatory strike, and he decided not to I think it was against orders, because he was well, why would they only launch one missile? If they were going to attack, they'd just launch all of them, right? And then it turned out it was it was a cloud or something. It was a malfunction anyway.
Holy shit.
Yeah, but it was another one of those ones where if there wasn't somebody with their head screwed on, sitting at the seat with the button, if they were just oh shit, my job says I have to
press a button, then we're all fucked.
It was longer ago than that. It wasn't 2018. But yeah, that was another one where if they'd just done their job and pressed the button, it would have been immediately a nuclear exchange. Mm-hmm. So it's happened a few times. And these are the ones we know about. I think there was another one where they had a missile in a silo, and the missile just launched itself, and the silo lid was closed, and from memory, I think they're saying it actually takes a while for the missile to actually how a rocket takes a while to launch. They say something a third of the fuel is burnt getting 10 centimeters above the ground or something and then it accelerates from there. And so they had that amount of time to quickly shut it down because the hatch was closed. It would have just crashed directly into the ceiling. Yeah. This is all off memory. Don't at me. I don't. I don't remember for sure. But
it's honestly speaking, there's so many just basically borderline things that could have happened. It's impressive that somehow it's funny because this is another thing I wanted to talk about. I think when people read about global history or think about like, you know, bad things that happen in the world, like everybody wants to imagine there's a shadowy cabal of like, you know, organization that's doing all the bad things, and they, you know, they plan all the bad things, and then that's why they do it. But like, what is like the truth about like politics is just like a bunch of stupid people holding a bunch of duct tape together, like literally like basically there's nothing like the people who hold us from like total destruction is like, you know, the few people who have sane minds, and then just a bunch of people making continuous mistakes. Like there is like, you know, like for example, like a good example is like you know, Pearl Harbor, like, you know, completely, they didn't even want it to declare without, like, telling, like, America. They actually had a whole thing drafted up, and then they just send it an hour later. So, like, now, like, all the Americans are like, how can they, like, possibly attack us without, like, ever saying anything? They did try to say something. Like, you know, the message just came literally an hour late. They also didn't bomb hospitals. The whole point was to bomb, like, hangars, like as in like to bomb a base, like without bombing people. Like, you know, I think there's very little people that actually got hurt during like Pearl Harbor. But anyways, like the point is that like absolute like buffoonery. Like it's literally because like somebody didn't send a message late. Like, you know, like how awkward that is.
Maybe if they had a mental tablet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe if they could just like instant messenger being like, hey, like, coming right up, America, smiley face. They could have just known, you know?
Or even just if the order of... Was it the Order of Wisteria, I think they call it? Like, there was a network of Japanese, like, I guess spies who, like, told the American spies who tell the Americans.
Yeah. Oh my, that's so fucking funny. Hey, could you tell your country that we're attacking? Our network of communication kind of failed on the other side.
Yeah, I think I'm jumping ahead again, but like that's exactly what the Order of the Wisteria seems to be.
Is for, yeah. No, that is actually what it is for.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like it started as like that emergency line between Russia and US.
Yeah.
So like messages would pass faster if need be, and then it just became an information network. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly speaking, Ciconia is just, you get to hear people on the podcast confusedly recount the amount of history they have read on Wikipedia, because, you know, I imagine all of us have accidentally fallen into many Wikipedia holes and read lots of things.
I just had the thought that like instead of reading the Ciconia chapter, what I really should have been doing is like brushing up my history, because that's the one that call me out in the comments if I like completely fucked up those like nuclear disaster stories, because I probably did. This is just like entirely off like the background of my mind
memory.
Yeah.
The call ends and we learn Tojiro has Meow's contact saved as my son, not just son.
Actually,
quote, my son, unquote. And then proceeds to gush about him and reminisce about how baby Meow used to hold his thumb. Within a half second, he goes from wholesome dad to gaslight mafia boss and walks into his money machine of a Chivalric recorder, where everyone works together to share information before it becomes public.
Insider trading
so that
time.
they can buy or sell stocks.
Yes, exactly. This is truly the insider trading. Nancy Pelosi's husband, like... very topical things. I mean, I like American politics, as in I just like watching shit shows. But the other thing I want to say that's really important about this is that Meow tells Tojiro that says, I think I will create a Chivalric order as well. Like, and then basically like Tojiro's like, yeah, I don't see why not. You should totally do it. But like, there's gonna be a later part in the chapter where like Meow tells him again, and Tojiro's like, oh my god, you made one? Like, and that is such a weird, like, there's such weird inconsistencies in Ciconia, like, as, like, totally, like, Ryukichi intended them to be weird inconsistencies. So, like, I think that's, like, a very, like, in a lot of them, it happens between Meow and, you know, other Meow and, like, Tojiro. This is one of them.
What do you mean inconsistencies? The fact that he didn't believe Meow would actually go on and create his own Chivalric?
No, I think there's a lighter part that Meow tells, like, Meow is, like, saying that, like, oh, I guess, like, as in, like, I don't know how to directly explain it, but, like, basically Meow is like, oh, like, I didn't like. I don't want to tell Dad about it because it's embarrassing. Like, and they talk about the first time, and Tojiro like is acting surprised. It's like, oh, I never thought you would have actually made one or something like that. Like, as in like. Even though, like, you know, Meow says right here, like, he says, I'm gonna create one. It's truly, like, there's a lot of gaslighting in your some moments, so.
This new Chivalric order, it catches you off guard at first, because you're led to believe this is the supposed Chivalric order for peace that Tojiro told Meow about. The one that's, like, he created as a young, wee news reporter for the sake of truth and information. And then it just turns out to be a stocks market Reddit stuff. But after he meets with Seshat, you find out that there was a second layer of gaslighting going on. It wasn't just Tojiro gaslighting Meow into thinking his Chivalric order was a good thing when it was actually just stocks marketing. The real purpose of that Chivalric order, the Order of Wisteria, is so Tojiro can manipulate the factions by manipulating the stockholders. This man is just too giga-brained. He's gaslighting his own friends in the Chivalric order so that he can fucking control the whole world. This fucker. Tojiro is just really, really funny. I don't like his character as a character, but I like his character as in the role he plays in the story.
Yeah,
because he basically has the whole world in his hand.
He straight up says that he's like manipulating public opinion. Like the opening of this chapter, he's like, you know, they're dancing splendidly, aren't they? We have no problems in the AOU either. In fact, the flames are even easier to fan here. And then he talks about how, like, human rights suck or something. I can't remember. But it, like, I guess I want to say, like, this like ties back to like at the front when like everyone's wondering like, hey, is this real? Like, are people actually this like easy to like inflame, or is this like artificial? And then it turns out there's a like the chivalric order of the Russian troll farm.
Truly, they're the Russian boss on Facebook, you know, that like gets people. Yeah, I do really gonna say I like the Wisteria's background. It's very pretty.
It is really pretty. I agree. Seshat has her own order with the same purpose, but Tojiro's assortment of gaslightees is greedier, so he achieved better results than Seshat, who was trying to do the same. I said there were 2 layers of gaslighting, but there are actually 3 layers of gaslighting, because Tojiro and Seshat are doing this for the Order of the Three Kings, where they are moles. So Tojiro is gaslighting his son, he's gaslighting the other people in the Order of Wisteria, and he's gaslighting the Three Kings into thinking he is using the Order of Wisteria for their own good, when he's actually doing it for his own good. For the good of the order that he is a part of with Seshat, which is the Order of... what the fuck was it?
Are you the 9 Prime Chivalric Order? Is that what you're thinking about? There's order.
Yes.
There's like 9 Prime.
Yes.
9th Prime. There's Wisteria. There's Holy Ark.
It's the 9th Prime.
Okay.
It's the 9th Prime. It's the one that he has with Seshat so that they can fight the Order of the Three Kings. The conversation ends when Seshat checks if Tojiro has chatted with his ex-wife ever since an undisclosed event, which we don't know what it was, but to which he replies, no, he hasn't spoken with his ex-wife yet. Good job, Tojiro. Don't fall back into those toxic tendencies. Anyway, even if he wanted to, he says that his ex-wife has graduated from wife,
whatever that means.
And is now devoting herself to her hobbies, holding no interest in a husband that is still a piece. What a fucking character. Who is this wife? Who is this man's wife?
He says it so casually too, like...
I just love the line, she graduated from life is the funniest shit, boss.
He sounds like a mob boss that like ordered a hit on her, and he's like, yeah, she's sleeping with the fish. It's like, yeah.
Yes. Anyway, she's making sure... wait, what? Oh, Seshat is making sure that Tojiro hasn't spoken with his ex-wife yet, because his ex-wife is apparently related to something that stands in opposition to their order. And as a warning, she reminds him she can deal with Tojiro betraying her, but she doesn't want to have to take care of him if he betrays the order. Ooh, she's putting the pressure on. And then, as a possible 4th layer of gaslighting, Gestrus takes Seshat's place in conversating with Tojiro, and I am now 100% convinced that she is Tojiro's wife because of the way they talk. After Gestress praises the efforts of the Order of Wisteria and offers a reward, Tojiro chooses his reward to be her taking off her mask, and he comments her face reminds him of when they first met. And then you, of course, have Veer, who looks similar to Gestress and is indeed very focused on her hobbies, and also very graduated from life since she's dead and all. And she also died in a trash fire, and that also usually means you graduate from life. And we also know multiple personalities are 100% a thing in Ciconia, and then you just have a Des who has 100% submitted himself to the Veer equals Gestress theory, because it all just makes very much sense that Veer would be Gestress, considering everything we've just learned about Tojiro's ex-wife in this chapter, and the fact that she's probably Gestress.
I think a lot of people have talked about it, like, as in, like, Veer, Gestress. Like, some people think at some time a time bullshit, like, you know. Gestress doesn't seem like she...
Time?
Yeah, like, because, like, as in Gestress is a younger version. It's, like, something to do with clones or something. I don't know. I don't like, this is the thing...
Clone? We don't need clones. We already have multiple personalities.
We do have multiple personalities. I mean...
I think the Veer personality one day just fucked off to the underground web in some corner of her brain, and then the Gestress personality took over.
I was just going to say, like, you were saying the theory of Gestress equals Veer. Like, I think it makes sense, but also, like, in the sense that I think in Ciconia there's enough information to make theories, but there's not enough information to, like, be able to say for sure if they're, like, this could... I feel like this could equally be, like, misdirection. Like, it feels like something Rukishi would do.
Yeah, it also feels too obvious that Yuikishi will do this.
Yeah, he's just finished talking about his ex-wife, and then some, like, mysterious lady shows up, and they're, like, talking familiar. They're like, that doesn't equal ex-wife. Like, it certainly seems like he's trying to make the point, but...
Wait.
I'm not sure if you were talking about this speech before, but Tojiro has a whole speech about, like, information, maybe again, unless you were talking about that before, like how information is like food. And I just wanted to mention how interesting it is that the way he describes it to me feels like fat shaming people for, like, you're only this way because of the things you eat. It's all your decisions, and you're like, and you think about, like, the problems with that argument, like, where you go, well, I live in a world where, like, you know, okay, I could go and, like, I mean, obviously there's always an option, but, like, most of the easy access to food I have is, like, terrible and shit. And, like, you know, surely those people also have a little bit of responsibility here. And, like, it's interesting how he's, like, I mean, you could kind of look at, like, Tojiro. I wrote down Rupert Murdoch. Like, Rupert Murdoch complaining about stupid people believing his news. Like, you know, he's the one who's, like, dishing out the shitty food and people are eating it, and then he's going like, oh, idiots, like, you know, why are they eating this food that I laid out for them specifically to entrap them?
Damn, that's really interesting. That's a really good point, yeah.
Doesn't Rupert Murdoch, like, control, like, 90, like, a bunch of percentage of, like, Australian news? Am I crazy?
Yeah, so, yeah, he's an Australian, what do you call it, media, mogul. Yeah, Australian-American, basically, you know, basically Fox News level. Yeah, like, he founded Fox News, right? Like, he owns Fox News. He also owns, like, the Daily Mail, I think, in Britain.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
The really shitty tabloid. Like, he's nothing good comes from Rupert Murdoch, I feel.
Yeah, does he own The Sun, or is Sun British? Anyway, yeah, Rupert Murdoch, horrifying old man who, you know, destroys media.
It feels a bit like Rupert Murdoch, like, criticizing people for, like, believing the news that he specifically designs to entrap people with. It's something I really like about Ryukishi's writing is, like, it's as much the things that aren't said as the things that are said that you need to pay attention to.
It feels always, reading Ryukishi makes me always want to quote that Rick and Morty meme, which is like, you have to have a certain level of, like, IQ to read this. Not saying IQ is not real, but, like, I just think it's funny because sometimes I do feel it's true. Like, you have to have some sort of media literacy to be, like, to even find, you know, somebody's Twitter rant to be this enjoyable.
If Ciconia was more popular, like this whole rant by Tojiro would be a copy paster, I'm pretty sure. Like, and I think it's like you have to.
Yes.
If you want to read it charitably and not just as like Ryukishi trying to like vent all his frustration and like give his opinion, it like you could also read it as like a character thing, and like you're not necessarily supposed to agree with Tojiro, because like you look at what he does, like it's obviously not the kind of person you want to take advice from. So
my favorite thing is that when you first start reading Ciconia, in the first 2 hours you get to read Sisha and Tojiro's centrism is actually really cool conversation. And it's just the funniest thing possible, because it's like literally the only thing that people remember from like not only thing, but like it's the thing that's incredibly notable in like the first like 5 hours of reading Ciconia. It's like they have this whole ass conversation at an airport about like actually centrism pog, like, you know, picking sides are for nerds. Like, could you imagine standing up for what you believe for? Like, disgusting. Let's make shitloads of money.
I have just some closing thoughts, like her mask really being an actual mask, but it's actually a visor that used to be popular, kind of on the same wavelength as Seshat's Among Us tablet. Except this visor is purely aesthetic, and she uses it for attachment reasons. She like has some kind of emotional value regarding that visor. And then I have a last paragraph here that says, in this chapter, one of the Chivalric orders from way back when regular knights were still a thing is called the Order of Three Kings. But wait, what? Why did I write this as if it was a fact? And it is stated that those kinds of orders used to last thousands of years. So it's very possible that the H3W Order of Three Kings is that same order of the Three Kings from back then. Okay, so it's basically what I said previously. I did have another thing I wanted to talk about, which is if Vier is Gestress and Tojiro's ex-wife, and she did graduate from wife when supposedly the Dreisig personality went underground and the Gestress personality took over. If this is all true, then does that mean that the laboratory people aren't pieces if she graduated from wife and had no longer an interest in a husband that is still a piece? Does that mean that she stopped being a piece when she went to the lab?
She became a player? And, I mean, this really plays into the idea of like, I might be crazy to say this, but like, I'm clearly no Zag who, you know, could just truly tune into the Ryukishi wavelength and like, you know, being able to read what it is, but like, I don't have enough information for like what kind of game board I'm even playing on yet. Like I feel like it's real. I'm just really sad that Ryukishi hasn't written like, you know, more yet, because I feel like we're too much in the soup to even know how big our bowl is. I don't like. There's a lot of things that I just like really don't even know how to gauge. Like, how am I supposed to interpret like Sisha, like any conversation, or Gestress, like when there's already a lot of things on the surface that you have to just like parse through. I don't know. So like, what does it mean to be a game board, or what does it mean to be a piece? Like, is this meta level? Is this like simulation level? Like, I don't know. I don't really have a very good answer.
It feels like we don't know enough yet to start even theorizing about it. But then you look at Zach Magnus' theories, and I don't know, it just feels like the argument of we don't know enough to start theorizing
is cowardice.
Doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. Like, it is cowardice, truly. That's why I am not just for everybody's information. No, I did not solve Umineko when I was reading EP1. I don't like, you know, like that. Those people are just built different. And but yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly speaking, this chapter, they have been talking a lot about game boards and pieces and how to ascend pieces and so on and so forth, like to such a degree that is like incredibly Umineko-like, you know, just, that's why I keep saying, like, that's like Ryukishi stares straight into the camera, like, and saying these things, like, and like, for example, like how the whole idea of like, you know, like, and how in Higurashi, the idea is like, you know, as a piece, if you get to the behind the enemy lines, you will ascend to become a queen, like, you know, like, and or even when Tojiro says like, oh, when you're old you can only move in a certain pattern, and like how that is like a piece. I don't know.
Yeah, and even on the previous chapter you had something about queens too, how you should take the queen and throw it at your opponent's at your opponent at an angle.
Yeah, Ryukishi just really like girl bosses.
I do really struggle with the chessboard metaphor in Ciconia. Like, I think it's way harder to like figure out what he's talking about than like, I feel like by about EP2 of Umineko I kind of get the idea, and like Higurashi doesn't get into game board piece stuff until like way late, and they use different language too. Whereas like Ciconia, like it's all there, and like it feels very Ryukishi, but unless we're talking about like computer simulations and stuff, like I'm aware that there are theories like that it's all a computer simulation. Like the idea of what it means to be a piece versus not be a piece, that like I don't have a firm idea in my mind. I think this is why we say, like, you know, there's definitely enough information to theorize. I think there's not enough information to like draw conclusions. Like, you just make more theories. We're kind of at the like, you know, when you brainstorm, you have that like diverging thought pattern, and then once you've got enough thoughts, you like converge towards a solution. I feel like we're still very much in the beginnings of the diverging phase, which makes sense because it's phase 1.
Yeah, Ryukishi, are you gonna ever write phase 2?
I hope he does. But regarding Ciconia's like computer stuff and computer themes, when I started reading Ciconia, I was fine with the meta world stuff just being like computer stuff and futuristic stuff and tech and all of this, just completely turning into like actually just pure sci-fi, while Umineko and Higurashi tackle their meta worlds a little bit differently. I was fine with Ciconia just being pure sci-fi, but you know, not to spoil it, but like Genshin has been stepping into a little bit, just dipping their toes. Genshin War has been stepping its toes into sci-fi, and it feels like a much more nuanced version of Matrix stuff without actually making it full-blown sci-fi. And I think it's a much more organic way to introduce sci-fi into a story than maybe what Ciconia might do for the meta world. Like, Mushroom, I don't know if you're on the same wavelength as me, but like the Wayline stuff, it's just slowly turning out to be related to computers, but it doesn't feel like.
I think we just have to do another episode on Genshin. That's just how it is.
No, yeah, I'm just mentioning this because even though Ciconia is all about virtual stuff and all of that, I remember Yancy having this discussion in an episode about how like we had so many stories already with Matrix like themes that it doesn't feel like a Ryukishi thing to like just make a story where it's all a simulation twist.
I mean, I hope Ryukishi doesn't write that. Like, I hope he writes something interesting. Like, I mean, I feel like he probably had something up his sleeve, and he, like, you know, if he actually released it, then everybody gets to, you know, actually get to look at him and be like, wow, I can't believe he was actually as smart as I thought he was. But, like, honestly speaking, like, we don't fucking know. Like, and by the fact that, you know, he's probably not going to release it for another long while. Like, we would just not be able to confirm either he is as smart or as stupid as we think he is.
Yeah, but that's why I brought up Genshin, just because even nowadays we're getting stories that are really good at not falling into the generic twist of it was all simulation and making more nuanced twists than that.
Yeah.
That I just expect Ryukishi to do something along those lines.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think not to tell people to play Genshin Impact, but like surprisingly incredible stories in Genshin Impact that plays with the conceptual idea of like technology and like the Matrix and like all that, which is very weird. You wouldn't have thought that in a game like that.
Yeah, but it's so organic. We need to make a Genshin.
Yeah.
And we aren't even sure if we're saying bullshit or not, because the story is still developing. So.
Yeah, just like Ciconia, Smiles.
I've got a couple of things. So first one, I just want to finish. Like, I kind of made my point already, but like I also wanted to point out in the first chapter we covered, Gunhild talks about the the trigger for World War One. I just want to like tie that into what I was talking about before with like Tojiro, like basically like blaming people for like listening to his media, and like it kind of feels like this is similar, where like I don't think World War One can realistically be blamed on like public sentiment. Like it was very much a political web, all these alliances and militarization and like kind of proto-fascism that weren't to do with like just people being stupid and you know, people's sentiment changing really quickly. Like it was kind of a powder keg at that point. So I guess I just wanted to like mention that in terms of like, I feel like the sentiment of these two chapters is a lot about on the surface is a lot about how people are stupid and need to pay more attention to the news they consume. But I think underneath there's like this underlying current of like that doesn't make sense as a theory for how wars start. And I hope that's like intentional by Rikishi. I feel like it is. It's on brand for him to be like, you know, just giving us like exposition that is kind of hiding things by not saying the quiet part out loud. So that was all I was going to say about like World War One. Like, I don't think his read on the surface of World War One there is actually very accurate, but that might be intended. And then the other thing I was going to say is...
Wait, just to check if I got your point. You're saying like on the surface it's about media consumption, information consumption, but then the actual message is about providers of the information themselves.
Well, yeah, that was my point. Like what I was saying before about like how Tojiro is like Rupert Murdoch. Like I'm kind of trying to tie that into. I think the World War One incident is similarly like it's a red herring, because I don't think that's a good read of that. It was just public sentiment changed really quickly. I actually, from my understanding, the public sentiment was building up as a simmer, and then it reached boiling point and boiled over. And it was other things as well. It was like military alliances and stuff. So like there's. If you follow that example to the logical conclusion, you come up with a lot of counter arguments to the whole like vibe of this chapter. But only, like I think like only on a surface level. Like I kind of trust Rikishi to maybe have a more nuanced actual point than what's being shown in phase one. Yeah, I don't know if that was like coherent at all. Let me know in the comments. But the other thing I was going to say is I've been disciplined, but I've written the word Ukraine like 100 times in my notes, and I think it is interesting to consider how actually I read a chapter ahead, so I've got more to say in the next episode too. But like a lot of what they talk about with like plucking the sprouts of war, and you know, when is a military operation plucking the sprouts of war versus being an escalatory incident. And it's I think it's just interesting because he wrote this before the Ukraine invasion.
Well, yeah, I think what's fascinating about this is that he not only wrote this, you know, the thing that stopped him from
Before
writing.
COVID,
Yeah,
also...
yeah, exactly. The thing that stopped him from writing was not Ukraine. The thing that stopped him writing was fucking COVID. And then just, you know, Ukraine happened, and probably he's like, well, I guess I'm definitely not gonna put out like phase 2 now. And
then Ukraine happened.
Yeah, I was gonna say like and this is probably more to do with the next chapter, which again I did read ahead, but like they talk about how their plan ultimately when they form the Order of the Public Bath is like they're going to like intentionally fail missions that they deem are sprouts of war rather than de-escalation. And like it's interesting when we've just had an example like contemporaneously of a failed operation that has not de-escalated anything. Like, you know, the fact that it failed, you know, hasn't helped. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like, you know, so like if you imagine that like there's like a secret organization in Russia that intentionally made the invasion fail, like it didn't work. They just keep invading. Like, and I kind of imagine the same thing happening with the Order of the Public Bath. It kind of ended differently, the Order of the Public Bath, but like the fact that you made an operation fail doesn't de-escalate is what I'm trying to get at. I don't know if this makes any sense.
But their point isn't the people making the mission in Ciconia. The Gauntlet Knights failing their mission isn't the thing that's de-escalating the problem. They're simply buying time for the people in charge to de-escalate the problem by not doing anything because the mission isn't going forward. That's
Yeah, I
right.
suppose.
That's what they do. Like they aren't de-escalating the things themselves. They're just buying time for the old guys to cool their
But
heads.
if you got someone like Putin in charge, like buying time just like it doesn't help, I guess.
You need to graduate him from life.
If we're talking about like surface level readings of Ciconia, like the answer is like we gotta kill the old bastards in charge. I don't know, like I don't think I was very clear.
But you're saying there's like a real life operation similar to like the Gauntlet Knights are doing happening right now?
No.
That's
I think
recently?
I think the Russians are evil and incompetent, and that's why their operation is failing. I'm not suggesting that like there's a secret organization. I'm just like
Oh, I see.
draw a link between their plan and like a real world example. And I feel like if we draw an example to another failed operation,
Failed operation is not like it's the type of thing where it honestly doesn't help as much as you would like to be helped. Is I think what you're trying to say. Like that is true. Like for example, like all of the Ukraine invasion has been incredibly incompetent, and it's also drawn out and completely left like the media cycle at this, or not completely, but like there's America has like three like not school shootings, mass shootings like a week. So like like there's a lot of things that they are worried about besides like reading like Ukraine now. But it is true, like it's now a drawn out problem that is just going to continuously cause like mass suffering. And I mean, Russia is like, okay, this is my personal take on Russia. Like everything, like Russian plots are shit that if you write in like plots as in like military plots, like they like is things that if you wrote in a novel, people would think you are just writing overtly evil things and it makes no sense and you're just being ridiculous. Like everything from like how like Putin rise to power, like about like basically bombing their own like government buildings to like, didn't they say like Crimea was the one who like bombed their buildings, even though like later on there's a lot of like evidence that point to probably like Putin himself like organized a bombing for his own building. There's like shitloads of people that just gets assassinated in like Russia, like high Russian government officials that like they just blame it on like Ukraine or any other people, and it's just incredibly sus. Like,
and also by making this a prolonged war, you're giving the other countries that depended on your natural gas to develop themselves individually from you. So you're losing you're losing many things in this war, but one of them is your economical power over other countries because they are literally getting independent from you.
Yeah, and your own people are fucking starving because literally everybody has made embargoes against you. I don't know. Like, honestly speaking, Ciconia is really hard to read without just like, talking a whole half an hour about like real life politics, because it's just way too like topical and like way too realistic in a funny kind of way, but not in a funny haha way.
Yeah, actually, you reminded me of like another comment I made for the next chapter, but like it's kind of relevant here. Is like, it's kind of interesting when I think of in what way is Ciconia like unrealistic in like the way it's built its world, and like I had the kind of thought like if we wanted to make it more realistic, like you just need to add a faction that's just evil. Like, it seems like like just you've got like the AOU, the ACR, the AVN, and they're all like kind of like they obviously have like nuanced cultures and stuff. Like you just need one that's like Des, which one is the one that you said was evil? Is it
I think the most fucked up is definitely the ABN, but even the ABN isn't like, you don't look at the ABN and you immediately say that's evil, because like their evil comes from an exploitation of good intentions, because like the ABN is all about equality and inclusion, and let's respect everyone. But that just led the powerful people to exploit the system completely, and now you have fucking thought police going around in the ABN.
And then on the flip, you know what? What would make a Ciconia more realistic is if Ciconia had actual America in it, and America was bad, and then it also had Russia in it, and Russia was also bad. Instead of writing a nuanced Russia and nuanced America, they should have just wrote America, and then we can all just point and be like, yeah, they're evil.
But that's interesting. This conversation has made me realize that Ryukishi is in a very interesting spot writing Ciconia, because he cannot develop any country a little bit too much, because real events might happen that will contradict the status of the country in his fictional story. So maybe he I imagine if he developed Russia a little bit too much, now he has to rewrite the whole story to fit the real world events that are going on, maybe.
I know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like let's say in like a year Russia has completely fallen, and because of all these embargoes and the fact that probably the natural gas lines going between countries have been fully built, and countries no longer depend on Russian natural gas, and they're completely deprived of their economical power, and they completely fall. And then Ryukishi has written Russia to still be one of the major world powers. Like, that just doesn't corroborate. So I imagine he would either have to write like a canon explanation for how Russia rose back up, or like just completely rewrite a part of the story.
Yeah, like it's not even the meme version of the Ukraine war where they like push Russia out of Ukraine and then just carry on all the way to Moscow and denazify Russia. Like because Ukraine is in the ABM, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is.
Stanislav is from Poland, but I think like it's like also Ukraine. So like I can't see a world in which like Russia and America are like both part of like an organization as close-knit as the AOU. I don't think that would happen for like... Basically, you'd have to have the United States of America and the Russian Federation no longer exist. Like they've just been replaced completely with like something else that takes up the same geographic location.
Okay, so member nations of the ABN: Iraq, Poland, France, Israel, Turkey, Romania, Belgium, Luxembourg, Britain, Ukraine, yes, Pakistan, Italy, and Germany.
Damn, that's just such a mess. But like, okay, I do want to say like I honestly love the idea of like Ciconia, that the canonical reason why Russia and America would ever band together is because they're like because they are just afraid of like China, like rising power in China and India. And the whole idea is that like the strong divorce of Russia and China over like communism has completely soured their relationship, because that somehow that means like my enemy is my enemy's friend. Like that would just make them band together to go against India and China. Like that's just incredibly funny to me. Like that's the canonical reason. Like that's why they even band together. And like Japan gets split in like South Korea and North Korea style. One goes to like full like capitalism,
COU, the other goes to DOU.
So one goes complete capitalism. Well, maybe I guess in both cases it would be both capitalism, but like one goes to complete Western values, and the other leans into the traditional Japanese values, and then goes with like China and India. Like it's just hilarious. Like it's just such a fascinating take on like modern politics, which is has a lot of truth in it.
Yeah. Ryukishi, please.
Ryukishi, please.
If you're listening to this podcast, please make a. You know how you made you sometimes breach characters like you do Wakonogi. Please make a Rose Guns Days character appear in Ciconia, so that we can have a funny reference to Rose Guns Days in the fact that Japan is divided between China and the States. Please.
Oh, that would be really cool.
You literally concocted the same scenario as in Rose Guns Days. How could you not have a Rose Guns Days character?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And also just saying this, like, Ryukishi keeps talking about how he loves inviting his, like, characters to be actors in other his stories. Like, there hasn't been that, like, besides, like, Tomitake, like, Or not, yeah, besides Tomitaki and, you know, these blonde bitches, like, you know, not a lot of people showed up yet.
He needs to invite fucking James Butler again.
James Well.
Not Butler, Butler.
Yeah, I honestly speaking, I'm excited to dive into the next chapters. So I don't have much thoughts anymore.
Yeah, I'm all out.
Yep, me neither.
Okay.
Alright, so that'll be it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it, you Ciconia Start fans. That's it. We'll come back whenever we feel like it. Hope you anxiously wait our return. Hope you liked Horsefly.
Yeah, and meanwhile, we will go back and, you know, start, you know, brushing up on our history lessons. Because clearly, what's important about Ciconia is not about reading Ciconia. It's by reading, like, you know, the past, like, you know, like, our modern history from the beginning of, like, you know, steam engines to, like, all the way to, like, you know, like, last week. So, yeah. Stay tuned for your favorite bad history podcast where people vaguely remember the thing that they're trying to talk about.
Yeah, Rukishi's just like, what do you mean you don't understand Phase 1? Didn't you read Phase 0.1 through 0.9? He just points at, like, the world history, like...
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Kakite.
See ya.
Bye.